An alien queen rejected humanity till she had his baby. The battlefield was silent now. Broken machines, burnt soil, and dead bodies covered the ground like scars on the planet. Smoke still rose from the wreckage of Earth's last ship. A red sun was setting in the distance, casting long shadows over the broken land. Only one human remained alive. Ethan Cross, a soldier from Earth, stood with blood on his face and dirt on his uniform. His weapon was gone, his body was weak, but his spirit was still strong. The alien soldiers dragged him across the battlefield, their long fingers gripping his arms tightly. They wore silver armor and had glowing eyes, showing no emotion. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They were taking him to their queen. Queen Zerloth was not like the others. She was taller, stronger, smarter. She ruled over the Valerie Empire with fear and power. 8 feet tall, with deep blue skin and long silver hair, she looked more like a goddess than a queen. Her eyes glowed like stars, and her voice echoed inside the minds of those who heard it. When Ethan was thrown before her, he didn't bow, he didn't kneel. He just looked up at her, breathing hard, and then, he laughed. It was a dry, broken laugh, but it was real. Queen Zerloth narrowed her glowing eyes. Why do you laugh, human? Your people are dead. Your army has failed. You are the last. Ethan wiped blood from his mouth and smiled. Just thinking, maybe you should have tried talking instead of fighting, or maybe you're scared of what would happen if we mixed your blood with ours. The room went silent. Her guards shifted uncomfortably, unsure if they should punish him. But the queen, she laughed too, a deep, powerful laugh that echoed through the stone walls. Breed with a human, she said, amused. You're weak. Your body would break. Your blood is too thin. You're nothing but a loud, dying animal. Ethan looked up at her and said, if we're so weak, why are you curious? Those words made the queen stop smiling. There was something about him, not his strength, not his body, but his mind, his refusal to fear her. She had taken many prisoners before. They all cried, begged, or died quickly, but this one was different. She waved her hand, and her guards stepped back. Leave us, she said. The guards obeyed. Now Ethan and the queen were alone. You interest me, human, she said, walking around him like a hunter studying her prey. You speak of mixing blood. Why? Do you think such a union could ever work? Ethan shrugged. Maybe, maybe not. But evolution loves surprises. She tilted her head. You think your species has something we need. I think we have something you don't understand yet, he replied. We survive, no matter what. You destroy planets, but we learn how to live. You burn us, we rise again. You kill us, but we leave scars that last forever. Zerloth stood still. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. Days passed. Ethan was not locked in chains. Instead, he was kept in a private chamber, watched closely, but given food and water. The queen visited often. At first, just to ask questions. Why do humans love? Why do you protect the weak? Why do you believe in things you cannot see? Ethan answered with honesty. With humor, sometimes with stories from Earth. Stories about family, music, old wars, even cats. The queen listened, and she began to feel something strange, something dangerous. One evening, she entered his room. No guards, no armor. Just her tall, graceful form and her glowing eyes. I have run tests on your DNA, she said. It is compatible. Barely. Ethan raised an eyebrow. So what now? Another experiment. She didn't answer right away. Then, she said softly, you made me curious. And curiosity is dangerous for a queen. He stepped closer. Then maybe stop being a queen for one night. There was silence. Then, she leaned in. Outside, the red sun dipped below the horizon. Inside, the future of 2 species quietly changed. The queen had laughed at the idea once, but something had started that even she could not stop. The experiment, the silence after that. Night was heavy. Queen Zerloth didn't speak to anyone about what happened, not even her closest advisors. On the outside, she remained the same calm, powerful, feared by all. But inside, something had changed. She ordered that Ethan Cross, the human soldier, be kept alive, not just alive, protected. No one could touch him. No one could question him to others. She said he was part of a long-term study, but that was only half true. Ethan didn't know what to expect the morning after. He thought maybe she would pretend nothing happened, or maybe he'd be dead. Instead, she came to his room like before. She didn't wear armor. Her expression was cold, but her eyes held something new. A hint of uncertainty. A spark of emotion. She asked him questions again about Earth, about emotions, about human instincts. But this time, her voice was softer. She listened longer. She didn't interrupt. Days turned into weeks. Ethan healed slowly. His cuts faded. His strength returned. He started walking around the palace garden, watched by invisible eyes, but never stopped, and Queen Zariloth kept visiting. They talked, laughed sometimes, even argued. They were completely different, but something connected them. Not love, not yet, but understanding. One night, Ethan sat under a glowing Valerie tree, looking at the stars. The queen approached and sat beside him. Her presence still felt like thunder in the air, but Ethan was no longer afraid. He turned to her. "Do you believe in fate?" She didn't answer right away. Then said, "I used to believe in control. That all things could be ruled through power, fear, or knowledge. And now," she looked at him. Her eyes glowed softer in the starlight. "Now, I'm not sure." The next day, everything changed. The queen collapsed during a council meeting. She stood quickly, hiding her weakness, but her guards noticed. She ordered silence. Later that night, in her private chamber, she scanned her body with ancient Valerie tech. The results appeared in the era. Glowing image of her internal systems, and there it was. A heartbeat. Small, new, impossible. She was pregnant. Panic rushed through her mind like fire. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just an experiment. A moment of curiosity. This was not part of the plan. A hybrid child. No queen had ever mixed with another species, especially not a human. Her people would call it shame. Her enemies would call it weakness. She stood in front of the mirror for hours. Silent the next day. She didn't visit Ethan or the day after. Ethan started to worry. He walked to the edge of his room, where two guards always stood. "Where is she?" No answer. He shouted. Pushed. Demanded. Still. No answer, so he waited. 3 days passed. On the 4th. The door opened. It wasn't a guard, it was her. She looked tired. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes didn't glow as brightly. But she stood, tall, still a queen. Ethan stepped closer, worried. "What's wrong?" She stared at him, silent, then said 2 words. "I'm pregnant." The room went quiet. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He expected anger, or shock, or questions, but instead, he whispered, "Is it mine?" She nodded once. Ethan sat down, trying to breathe. You're serious?" "I have never spoken more seriously in my life," she said. She told him everything. The risk, the fear, the danger. Her council would never allow it. The Valerie laws were strict. A child born of a human would be seen as a threat, a sign of weakness in the royal bloodline. Ethan stood up. "Then we leave." She looked at him sharply. "I am the queen. I cannot run." "You're also a mother now," he said. "That changes everything." She didn't answer, but her hands touched her stomach just for a second. And in that moment, she looked human. Outside, the stars kept moving across the sky. Inside, the future was already growing. A queen had broken her own laws. A human had touched something deeper than survival. And a child half human, half Valerie was on its way. A new life, a new war, or a new beginning. The palace was no longer calm. Whispers spread like fire through the marble halls of the Valerie homeworld. The queen had changed. She was distracted, slower, even softer. Her top advisors noticed, her generals noticed, and then they discovered the truth. One of the palace medics leaked the report. The queen was carrying a child, but not a pure Valarier, a hybrid, a half-human child. The council was furious. Queen Zariloth stood in the war chamber, surrounded by her most trusted leaders. Their faces were tight with anger, their voices cold. "This is an abomination," said General Threx. "You carry weakness," hissed another. "The empire cannot survive with a polluted bloodline," shouted a third. The queen said nothing at first. She stared at the glowing image of her unborn child. The heartbeat was strong. The life was real. "I made this choice," she said. "This child is mine, and it will live." The council didn't agree. Behind closed doors, they planned to remove the child by force. If needed, they would not let their empire fall to human weakness. The queen heard the whispers. She had ruled for over a century. She knew what came next. That night, she returned to Ethan's chamber. He could see the tension in her face. "They know," she said. Ethan didn't ask who. He already knew. They'll come for the baby. She continued. They'll call it mercy. They'll say it's for the good of the Valari. Ethan stepped forward. Then we run. Now. She hesitated. Leaving would mean giving up everything, her crown, her world, her people, but staying would mean death. For the child, and maybe for Ethan too. She looked into his eyes. I'll come with you. The escape was not easy. Alarms rang across the palace. Guards ran through the halls, searching room by room, but the queen knew every tunnel, every hidden door, every weak spot. They moved through the shadows. Ethan, the queen, and the secret growing inside her. At the hangar, 2 ships were waiting. One belonged to Ethan, the other belonged to her. They chose neither. Instead, they took an old transport ship, slow, unmarked, forgotten. No one would think to look for a queen there. As they flew through the stars, enemy ships followed. Lasers burned through space, metal screamed. But they escaped. Barely. Months passed. Far from the Valari Empire, on a quiet moon surrounded by forests and rivers, they found peace. It wasn't a palace, it wasn't Earth, but it was safe. Ethan built a small shelter from old tech and local stone. Zira Loth no longer queen. Just Zira now learned to live like a human. No servants, no armies. Just survival, and each other. Then came the day. The baby was born under the light of twin moons. A girl with pale blue skin and human eyes. Her cry echoed through the forest. Zara held her close. Ethan sat beside them, tears in his eyes. This was not just a child. This was proof that 2 enemies could become more. That war could lead to peace. That something new could grow. From fire and blood, but peace never lasts. One day, a small Valari scout ship landed nearby. They were found. Zara knew what it meant. More would come. The council would never stop hunting them. Ethan prepared weapons. Zara activated the old defenses around their home. They would fight, if they had to. But something was different now. They weren't alone. They had a child. A reason to protect. Not just to survive. The first enemy ship arrived a week later. It scanned the land, detected energy, then left. But it would return, with others. Zara looked down at her daughter and said, "You will be the future. Not me, not your father. You." Ethan placed his hand on hers. "We'll give her a chance. Whatever it takes." And so they prepared. Not to die, but to fight for the child, to protect the one life that could change. To galaxies, because the queen had made her choice. She chose life. She chose love. She chose love. Humanity. Final scene. Years later, a teenage girl stands on a cliff, looking at the stars. Her eyes glow like her mother's. Her heart beats like her father's. Behind her, 2 worlds prepare for war. But she prepares for peace. Or perhaps, something more powerful.